What's up, folks? I'm Karma, aka the Blerd Girl, and welcome to the Blerd Girl Live. Now, tonight, my guests are comic book artist DJ Kirkland and my second hour award-winning author, NK Jemisin. But before we get started, I just want to shout out my Patreon crew because y'all are amazing, A. B, I now have a brand new monitor. You can't see this, but it instead of like trying to look at my little laptop screen and my iMac or whatever, I now have a nice brand new monitor, and I couldn't have done that without your support on Patreon. So I just want to thank you all for that support and the fact that I'm able to build this show with you. So next, new camera. um, and also thank you to everybody in the chat and on Twitter who wished me well today because I had a bit of a crazy day. Yes, my heat is back on. I am doing much better. No, I don't live in Texas. This is a Brooklyn situation, but we are good. So I just want to say thank you, and I see you, and I appreciate you, even though I wasn't able to comment on everybody's well wishes. So let me tell you about my first guest. DJ Kirkland is a comic book artist and illustrator based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, he's best known for his bright and colorful anime-influenced art that can be found in his debut graphic novel, The Black Mage. I love this book. His work can also be found in the comic book adaptations of Agatsuko and Dream Daddy, a dad dating comic book. Now, I'm aware of the first Dream Daddy. I didn't know about the second one so recently, but we're going to get into it. Welcome to the show, DJ Kirkland.
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good as we can be. I mean, we're still in the middle of a global Panda Express, so
Panda Express.
It is
That's
what
the
it
next
is.
one we're using.
It is.
That is the new one. So hi to everybody in the chat tonight. Hi to everybody early. D3, UC3er, Sarati, hello, Denny Von Doom, what's up? Welcome, welcome. Now, the first question I always ask everybody coming on the show is, what are you reading or watching or geeking out over to stay sane in said Panda Express?
So I've been just throwing myself head first into media of all kinds while we're still in the middle of a personal pan pizza. I've been getting into webtoon a lot recently, so I'm reading so many different webtoons right now. I'm reading Pyramid Game. I'm reading Lore Olympus because that just got announced that it's getting a physical release, so I'm super excited about that. I'm also reading one that's called, it has a really weird name. It's called Jungle Juice, and it's not what you think.
What?
It's weird. It's about these people that there was a bug spray that's called Jungle Juice, and the bug spray is so powerful that when it obliterates the bugs in the second that the spray meets the bug, and then the DNA particles and remnants of the bugs can be inhaled by humans, and they take on characteristics of those bugs. So one of the characters has giant dragonfly wings. It's wild.
Oh my god!
It's
Anime the Fly. It's Anime the Fly. That's what this is.
If we're gonna continue down this road of doing anime adaptations of webtoons, it's perfectly suited for that. But my number one favorite webtoon that I'm reading right now is Blades of Furry. It's so good.
Blades of Furry.
Furry on Ice meets
Furries.
Meets Beastars, and it's awesome. It's like a battle anime. It's really good. It's really, really good. So I've been diving headfirst into webtoon.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I'm checking out Lore Olympus too, and it's really funny. I really want to dive into webtoons rather, but every time I go there, I'm like, oh, I could spend a lot of time here. Like God of High School got me, and I'm like, I can see days going by.
Yes.
So I had to. Yeah. Speaking of days going by, let's talk about the Snyderverse momentarily. Entire days. So I think we have an image. The Snyderverse, for those of you who don't know, is premiering this week along with Falcon and Winter Soldier. We'll get there in a minute, but this is the big news of the week. Now, I feel some kind of way about this for several reasons. One, It was hilarity yesterday. I know a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
got previews last week. I got previews. There's another set of previews that came out for the premiere that happened yesterday. I couldn't watch it yesterday because Microsoft basically broke. So for some reason, you could get into the Warner Brothers app, which is a
Yeah.
special app that they have for screeners, but couldn't
Mm-hmm.
nobody download nothing because Microsoft like Teams wasn't working. It's very bizarre. So I couldn't start watching it until like this morning, and I've only seen 30 minutes of it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And here's the thing: it's gorgeous. It should not be called a movie. It should be called a miniseries or
Mm-hmm.
a miniseries event because it
Mm-hmm.
is 4 hours and change.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Snyder cut? And I don't even know if you were a DC Comics fan of the first one, so
Yeah. I'm not. So if there's anything that people can know about me is that growing up, I was never really super into like superhero comics or cape comics in general. Like I'm an anime girl through and through. So like I grew up on like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, all that stuff. But having seen some of like the DC movies, I don't want to get dragged to the internet for this. So I'm not like the biggest like DC fan when it comes to comic adaptation movies. Like 4 hours is a long time. That's a long
it
time.
it is a long time. And you know what? In the chat here, Sarati, and I did not know this. Thank you for cluing me into this, Sarati. Sarati says my day job was down globally yesterday because of
Oh my
Microsoft.
god.
Okay, so it's not just because of the Snyderverse. Snyderverse did not shut down Microsoft. Apparently, Microsoft was down all the way around, and that was a bad day to premiere a 4-hour film.
Yikes.
And so here's the thing: even if you're not a big Cape Crusader fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You understand what's going on with Justice League. You understand
Oh,
the big
100%.
deal behind this, right?
Yes. Yes.
My only issue, and here's the thing: I knew it was going to be better. It had to be better because the original person who was coming back on it was going to be making the movie, and he was getting a gazillion dollars from fans to do it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this weird precedent, and I'm not going to say just DC. I'm also going to talk about
Mm-hmm.
Marvel too. It's this
Mm-hmm.
weird precedent where they get to yell and
Right.
bully people
Right.
at basically the studios until they
Mm-hmm.
do something. The same thing sort of happened with Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all the bullying that happened, and even what happened with, even though no one will admit it, Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters is now like, yeah, we're bringing it back to the fans. So what makes me a little bit nervous is how the precedent it sets for, well, if I don't like it, I'm just going to make a bunch of noise and threaten it. They did. Time Magazine did an article that came out today that talked about the people that the actual fans threatened. Not all of the Snyderverse people did this, but I myself have been threatened by them. So I'm not saying that it's not news to me. I'm grown enough to know that there's a difference between the fans and the movie and the people who made the movie.
Yeah.
But something about this weaponized fandom that
Yes.
I have an issue with. Talk to me a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
As someone that has also been harassed on the internet for existing while Black and queer at the same time, I understand the sentiment. I totally get this. So I agree with you 100%. I think it sets a really, really bad precedent by saying that, like, oh, if we just yell enough on social media, then the producers of said thing are going to bend to our will. Like, I do think that there, to a degree, I think input from fans is very, very important, right? Because we are fans of the source material of whatever it may be, whether it's Marvel, whether it's like anime, video games, whatever. We're fans of these things, and of course we want the best version of that thing, whether it's an adaptation to a video game or a movie or whatever. We want the best version of that because we care so much. But it gets to a really weird place and a really dangerous place when when they literally bend to every beck and call of the fans, when that's not representative of the entire fan base, right? So it's kind of one of those situations where it's like it's some, not all. It's a very vocal group of people that want said thing, and to a certain extent, I get that, but again, it's setting this weird false precedent that's kind of putting it into the hands of the fans that are saying like, oh, well, if we just yell enough, we'll get whatever we want, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
Exactly. And also, like you said, what fans are yelling, because it's not the
Mm-hmm.
ones who want diversity, inclusion, or anything like
Right.
that.
It's never that. It's
It's
never that.
never that. We can't have
It's never
that.
that. No.
Torque Mama, yeah, I've had. I'm not even gonna get into it because I don't even want the hashtags. I mean, even though we have very good mods here, I just don't even feel like getting into it. But yeah, no, I've had death threats from Snyder fans before in multiple
Mm-hmm.
languages. It's fun, and then they set up, and this is not just Snyder verse.
Mm-hmm.
There's fans in general when they don't like
Yeah.
something. There are now ways of weaponizing it. There are entire discords that are set up for helping people to create bots on how to go after people. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, as someone that's had threads on Reddit made about them to make a harassment campaign like for me against me for having an opinion on things, like, or just like, oh, this person is queer and black, so they're like an easy target to harass, and oh, they're verified on Twitter, so that means that they are a rich person that has every opportunity presented to them in the world, which that is certainly not the case. But yeah,
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
people, yeah, the fans can be toxic. It's some, not all,
Yeah.
because I mean, both you and I here are both fans of various things, and we don't
Yes.
behave that way.
And also, I had this conversation with NK Jemisin, who has been on the show before. And it's like, when we're asking for things to get better, we're not saying that you can't be here too. It's just
Yeah.
we're fans too, and
Mm-hmm.
we just want fandom to reflect everybody. People
Yeah.
in the chat are completely agreeing. Quid pro quo. I know I'm in a safe space. It's my show. I know, but I just don't feel like going down memory lane again. It can be very scary. There is
Mm-hmm.
Denny Von Doom said the Snyder Cut is only happening because AT&T wants HBO Max subscribers without having to shoot a brand big film. Listen, the timing is perfect. We're in the middle of a
Honestly,
personal
yes.
pan pizza. There's no summer movie coming out. This
Yeah.
is how you get everybody on board without charging them $30 like Disney
Yeah.
is. And for the record, I was yelling last year about why in the middle of this Disney was charging $30. So I don't have
Mm-hmm.
a love for one streaming service over another. I'm just saying this
Exactly.
particular situation. Yeah, exactly. Disney has Star Wars fans. I'm looking at the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Disney has Star Wars fans. DC has Snyder fans, and I have been yelled at and threatened by both. I'll put it to you that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm grown enough to know this is fiction, also to know which ones to take serious or not, and also to know that some people are dumb enough to put their whole entire government name in their profile. So,
Yeah.
that being said, let's talk about Falcon Winter Soldier. So Falcon Winter Soldier is coming this week, and I'm a little bit more excited about this.
Yeah.
I not because it's Disney, but because I'm thinking of how excited we were about WandaVision. How about you? What are you thinking about the Falcon and Winter Soldier? And did you watch all of WandaVision?
Oh, I was tuned into WandaVision every week. I was talking about this to my husband, who is a very big Marvel fan. He's read the comics his entire life. And for me, I wasn't really big into Marvel stuff. Like I said, I was an anime girl from day one. My introduction to Marvel stuff was through like the Capcom versus game. So Marvel versus Capcom, Marvel superheroes, all that stuff. So, and then the X-Men cartoon, obviously. So as I got older and then went to school, and then that's when we got to the beginning of the MCU. I'm kind of aging myself here. I was in college when the first Iron Man movie came out, and like it was just so much fun. Like I really like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's a great entry point for people who might have like a passing knowledge of like Iron Man or Captain America and all that stuff, and it gets people into this universe of comics in a really really fun way that I've really just enjoyed over the past 10 years. And to think about what they've done in constructing all of these 20 plus movies to all connect and interweave into each other and make sense is a huge undertaking, and that should be celebrated for sure. And them transitioning to television to expand those characters and those stories more is even more exciting. So getting to spend so much time with Wanda and Vision in WandaVision was incredible. Like I had so much fun the whole time. It was a really fun 9 episodes. I wanted more. I want more Monica. I need Monica
Yes,
Rambeau.
this is a Monica Rambeau stan channel, just in
Yeah,
case you didn't know.
exactly.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the fence with this whole, yeah, we're gonna give you a bunch of series until they turn the planet back on and we'll give you movies again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like to see more. I want to see Monica I want to see an Agents of Hate show. I want to see a
Mm-hmm.
sword show, you know?
Yeah.
I'm also excited about Falcon and Winter Soldier. And it's funny because I think it was Big Gay Comic Geek who said this. He was saying, like, I don't know about Sam Wilson as a black character. Oh, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was somebody else on TikTok. Sorry. Another TikToker was talking about how they weren't sure about Sam
Mm-hmm.
being not just Captain America, but a black character, and would they address anything on this
Right.
particular show? Because in the comics, it was kind of even said to him at one point, you were the token on the
Mm-hmm.
team, and he didn't take that well. Which he shouldn't. But
Right.
I as opposed to somebody like Luke Cage, who in the comics as well as in their live action, it was very clear he's in Harlem. He knows,
Mm-hmm.
what's up. But I think it's looking at some of the trailers and stuff, I'm very excited because he's not quick to take up the mantle. He's very clear on that it hasn't always meant good things, including
Right.
Hydra. And I'm telling you, Carl Lumley is cast in this show, but they won't say who he is. And I really want him to be Isaiah Bradley because then Isaiah Bradley will not just be canon in the comics, he will be canon
Yeah.
on live screen. And we get to acknowledge the fact that Black folks in that universe also weren't treated that well. And that has
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
rectified. So I am very, very, very I'm looking forward to it. Also,
Me too.
I have fun every week looking. Didn't you have fun looking at all the little Easter eggs and stuff? And
Yeah. Like I love I live for stuff like that. And this is like a side tangent about like streaming and binging culture, I guess. Like I love a week to week format, especially during the personal pan pizza. Like having some
the
kind of
Panda
routine and
Express.
having some kind of routine in all of this, like it was like, okay, great. I get to look forward to this. I actually know what day it is. It's Friday. So it's Friday. That means WandaVision. And that means like everybody's going to be talking about it on social media. It's going to be a fun
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And having that to look forward to every week, I love that format. Like I miss that format with Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. Like that was always
Mm-hmm.
the conversation on Twitter, especially on Black Twitter every weekend. Like that was some of the most fun to have on the internet. And I love being able to have this conversation and talk about it week to week and having all the fan theories about what's going to happen next and all of that stuff. Like those conversations are really fun. I like the collective like enjoyment of a thing and kind of like wondering what's going to happen next. I love that part of consuming entertainment. And with like this culture of binging, we don't really get that. It's like, oh, the show premieres, I'm going to blow through it in a weekend and we're done talking about it a week after it's premiered. So, like, imagine if something like Bridgerton had that weekly rollout, like that mess of a show that I really, really love because
I would
I
have watched it if it came out with
mess,
I didn't watch
mess.
it because I
I
didn't have the
love
time.
mess. So if we imagine something like that, that conversation would have still been going on for a couple weeks and not just that one weekend. And because of how quick the news cycle goes and how quickly we consume things, nobody's talking about that show anymore. So by the
Right.
time the very handsome lead was on SNL, the show was already done. It's out of the cultural zeitgeist of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's great for him. He's very handsome that we get to see him on SNL. But again, like the collective, like pop culture zeitgeist machine that's happening on social media has already moved on. We're talking about WandaVision now, so that's great. But like, I need to know what I need to know what Vashon is gonna do next. I need to know.
But also, I love the fact, and this is one of those things that I feel like I get in Marvel TV and movies. I don't remember having these conversations. Sometimes I have these conversations about Black Lightning, but I don't remember having these conversations about things like Doom. I don't remember like getting online and going, "Oh my God, y'all," you know what I mean? Talking about the characters in the way that we're talking about not just WandaVision, but also the mythos and everything, and even the memes. Oh my God, that meme about not just Vashon, you reminded me of it when you said Vashon, but that meme that they had with Oprah talking to Wanda and Vision like it was Harry and Meghan. And when she said, "Let's talk about how you let Monica put her very real body in front of your very fake children and catch some very real bullets."
Yes.
I was done.
Who's having that conversation?
Thank you. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh. The timeline has needed a new Oprah GIF meme clip for a minute, and we were fed. We were fed. Oh my God.
So I think they knew what they were doing with it, and I really hope it does continue. Now, I don't know if it's going to last outside of the Panda Express, but we'll see. A few other people in the chat have joined us. Welcome. Torque Mama called it the Pamela. Yes. How long has it been since we've had TGI Friday? Ooh, quid pro quo. Ooh, that was a flashback. Ooh.
That you're really taking me there with the TGI Friday.
Oh my God.
You took me there.
So let's talk a little bit about these Oscar noms. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through absolutely every single nominee. There was some amazing things. There were some not so amazing things. One of the not so amazing things is that I was sad to see that One Night in Miami, Regina King's movie, was snubbed because that was brilliant. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
But it's loosely based on a real thing that happened. So there was a hotel room that Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and okay, now I can't remember the rest of the people, hung out in one night after Muhammad's he had won a fight. And it is sort of a telling of what would have happened if what they might have been discussing, because we all knew where everybody was. Thank you, Danny Von Doom, Sam Cooke. And Sam Cooke was really the crux of this, because the discussions they were having was, let's just blend in, and why you got to fight the white man so much? Why can't we just get our money and go? Why can't we just chill? And Malcolm X talking about like, no, we can't, because this is what's actually happening. And then them calling him on some of the things that he had found out about Elijah Muhammad, and then Muhammad Ali going, but wait, you asked me to join the nation. So like, it was just really a fascinating conversation. And it's one of those things that you could see as a stage play, because it was, all dialogue. That I was sad to see didn't get like nominated for anything.
Any nominations at all, right?
Yeah, but both Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis got nominated for Best Actor and Best Actress for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I also believe that the makeup team from Ma Rainey's, for the first time, Black women have been nominated for in that. I think, and don't quote me, it might be hair and makeup or hair, makeup, and costumes, because the Oscar nominations are a little bit different. That's new. But there's some things that were like, really? So, Soul is in there for Best Animated Feature. Onward. Let's see. I think what was nice, though, was seeing for Best Picture, Minari, which a lot of people were noting might end up being Best Foreign Language Film, which was aggravating Yeah.
which is super aggravating.
Yes. Yeah. The Hollywood Foreign Press did that mess because they didn't know where to put it. And people who speak Korean and you have like subtitles, that's a foreign language film. It was shot here. But okay. And
Yeah.
about an American family. But
Yes,
okay.
it's about the American experience, but I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other show. We ain't got
That's a
time.
whole other show completely. No, we don't have the time.
So I gotta ask you before we dive into what you're doing. I gotta ask you, what anime are you watching right now? Because this is an anime fan club in here.
Yes. So currently, I'm watching what everybody else is watching. I'm watching Jujutsu Kaisen. It's so good. Like,
I love it.
Again,
the animation is amazing.
Yeah. Studio Mappa is doing incredible work on that show. So shout out to Mappa for really just putting their foot in it when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm also watching. I just started watching Wonder Egg Priority, and that's currently streaming on Funimation.
Yes.
And that is wild. I watched like the first 2 episodes of it, and it's really, really good, really beautifully animated, and it's dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. I'm wondering where it's gonna go. I'm hoping that it sticks the landing. But those are the 2 shows that I'm watching currently. I'm always going back in my back catalog of things. I'm watching my comfort shows. I just finished rewatching for the, I don't know, like 3rd or 4th time, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because again,
yes.
it's like perfect from start to finish. It's so good. What else? So yesterday was Naoko Takeuchi's birthday, so I watched an episode of Sailor Moon to commemorate her birthday. So that show is my soul. That's what made me what made me become an artist. So that's pretty much what's been on my deck.
I am absolutely fascinated by Wonder Egg Authority. I don't know if anybody in the chat is watching Wonder Egg Authority, but it is. I wasn't ready. I came for the animation, but wasn't ready for the trauma.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, Wonder Egg Priority is gonna talk about some trauma.
Yes,
I'm here for it. I really hope that it sticks the landing. I
do too. Like, so for those of y'all who know, I'm always yelling about, F them kids and anime. This is definitely one of them F them kids shows, but it is dealing with something that's actually fascinating to me, and that is without giving away too much, the Wonder Egg Authority are these girls who have the ability to fight demons for all intents and purposes in a, I don't know, would you say in a Sailor Moonish kind of way? They get weapons that are sort of kind of similar to things that they would have in real life.
Oh yeah, they're definitely callbacks to that. So there's some visual cues that are total nods to Sailor Moon in that.
Yeah, and so, but all of the people who they are saving are spirits of people who've committed suicide. I'm sorry to shock anybody, but that's what they're dealing with. And so I didn't know this before I started this show, and I was traumatized. So I'm telling y'all so you don't get traumatized. And you don't see it happen necessarily to anybody. Correct. Really. It's but you realize through the conversations that they're having with these spirits that several things are happening. Now, I personally think that this is my question to you, DJ. I actually personally think that one of those suicides might be a murder.
Yeah, I think that might be the twist, that there might actually be there's something afoot as what's causing this to happen to begin with. Yeah, there has to be. I'm curious to see what the twist is or what the conceit is going to be for the rest of the series and how it comes to a close. But it's really, really fascinating from the jump.
Yeah, it is really, really interesting. And I think because the animation is so bright and colorful, it's not like you're watching like, I'm just trying to think of something that's like a really, really dark anime. It's not like you're watching Ajin.
Yeah.
Like Wonder
or
Egg
like Berserk or something.
Right. Like Wonder Egg Ajin would be traumatizing. So this is sort of like Fooly Cooly meets a really deep story.
Yeah, it kind of gives me like a little bit of like nods to like Madoka Magica, where it kind of like did that thing where a lot of people say that like, oh, Madoka Magica is like the first magical girl show to be dark. It's like, well, it's not. There are plenty of dark themes that happen in magical girl shows that are presented in slightly different ways. But like Majoka Magica had this thing going for it to where it kind of presented the kind of like darker concepts in a really kind of weird and uncomfortable way with how they represented the witches. So I'm really curious, like, as to yeah, I'm just so curious as to where it's gonna go. I really want to. Yeah, I'm just so curious, but I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying it so much.
I am as well. So if there's people in the chat who say they love it, Quid Pro Quo says they haven't started it yet. That's okay. You can catch up. I know the bouncer's watching it. So anybody else that's watching it, yes. And somebody did say something that I missed, and that was that Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield were both nominated for supporting actor, and that they changed the nomination. I didn't know that. I did know that they were both nominated, but I'm gonna need somebody in the chat to explain that one to me. But moving forward, let's go into the breakdown. Let's talk about what you're doing. So everybody, if you don't know already, DJ Kirkland is an artist, and I would like to show some of the covers of some of the work that you're doing. Yes, so we've got Black Mage, Agretsuko, I've been told I was saying it wrong. Dream Daddy, a dad dating comic book. I'm gonna tell you right now, that one sitting on the lounger in the front I can see he's trouble, and I hadn't even read this book yet. Yes, Benny Nix, these poses are everything. So yeah. Tell me, please, about how you got into comic book art, because I feel like I first met you at FlameCon.
Yeah, you met me at FlameCon 2018. What is time anymore? But I think it was FlameCon 2018.
And I believe you had just become a full-time artist, because you were still sort of working a full-time job and doing art part-time. Yeah. How did you get into it? What made you go, okay, you know what? This is going to be my career. I'm going to put myself out there and make this my career.
So I definitely knew that I wanted to do an art job of some kind when I was like 7 or 8. And again, it comes back to Sailor Moon being the thing that got me into wanting to be an artist to begin with anyway, because I was so fascinated by this show that is so beautiful and pretty and sparkly and all that stuff. I'm like, people make this. Like, how do you get a job doing that? So I just started copying drawings and all that stuff from Sailor Moon. And then when I got a little bit older and I realized that, like, oh, like, people make these. People are drawing these pictures and they're making them move and they're coming to life, and I want to do that. I want to do that as a job. So I knew from a very, very young age that I wanted to be some kind of professional artist in some way. And then when I went to high school, I found out that there was a college to go to learn how to be a comic book artist or an animator. So I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design and enrolled there. And it was my first pick for college of where I wanted to go, and I got in. And there I studied animation for a little bit and then switched to comics as my major. And I graduated in like 2009. And then I just like worked full-time jobs and still honing my skills between then. And then I was approached by Oni Press in 2015 at PAX West. And I was asked, because I'd had a relationship with Oni because they would come to our school every year to do portfolio reviews. So I had built that relationship with them there. And my editor at the time, his name was Charlie Chu, he was like, hey, like, are you still interested in doing comics professionally? I said, absolutely. Like, I've been waiting for this moment my entire life to be able to do this. And he says, okay, I've got this book for you. It's called The Black Mage. And so he gave me the pitch. And when he told me what the pitch was for Black Mage, which is basically like the first Black student to attend an all-white magic institution, and the institution is run by the Klan, I was like, where do I sign? Sign me up. I want to make this book. So,
but wait. You're skipping over something kind of important here.
What am I skipping?
You're skipping over some of the other mages. Some of the other mages are Harriet Tubman
and Frederick Douglass.
And John Henry.
Yes.
And this little boy has a familiar, and his familiar is a crow. And what's the crow's name?
His crow's name is Jim.
It's got a crow named Jim, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Jim Crow.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Like, doing that thing that like a lot of shonen anime does, where their names are like super like literal translations of things. Like, so we wanted to play on that, but then kind of like take on some like stereotypes that are put against Black people. That's why his name is Tom Token, because he's the only one. And there's a stereotype about being an
He's Sam
Ensemble,
Wilson.
but like Tom,
He's Sam Wilson. We get it.
he's the Sam Wilson of our book. But yeah, so he is like the first Black student to attend this PWI. And you know, he just wants to go to school. He wants to go to school and be the best magician that he can be. And all these white kids are like, why are you here? Like, and it's this crazy nonsense about both Daniel and I's personal lived experiences by being one of the few Black people in predominantly white spaces and the microaggressions that come with that. But it's also dealing with those conversations through like huge fight scenes, Final Fantasy references, video game references, anime references, and just like telling a cool story where a Black kid's at the center and he's the hero and he's awesome. So that's kind of how that project happened. And then from there, it led to opportunities while we were working on Black Mage to then work on the Dream Daddy comics. I love the Dream Daddy game. So I said, yes, I would love to do a comic for that. And then with Agretzko coming after that, they're like, oh, like, would you be interested? They would just send me emails being like, do you want to work on this? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely I would. I'm in no position to say no. I'm not in a position to be like, no, I don't want to work on a really popular IP licensed by Sanrio. I don't want to do that. No, not at all.
But you're also your styles is so amazing. It lends itself to it. And if you haven't checked out Black Mage, you must check it out. It's not just a fun story. It is also drawn really well. I'm also very amused. We had this interview, and other people can check this out too. Also, I think it might have been the same year. I don't remember what convention this was. It was for sci-fi. I feel like it was E3, but I mean, not E3, Emerald City Comic Con, or maybe it was C2E2. But we were...
Our interview was at New York Comic Con.
New York Comic Con, okay.
Of 2019.
Okay.
And then the first interview that we had with a different person with sci-fi was at Emerald City.
Right.
That was hilarious.
It was so funny. It was, because we were backstage and y'all thought I was gonna interview you, and they were like, oh no, it's her. And I was like,
I was like, are you sure?
Okay. Well, because everybody was saying, and this was before all the news came out about how terrible J.K. Rowling is behind the scenes. Everybody was saying, oh, it's a Black Harry Potter. It's a Black Harry Potter. And I'm like, is it though? Because y'all like saying that a lot to Black. No, let's look at it. And I was like, it's actually not. There's slavery in here. That's not.
Yeah. That's not Harry Potter at all.
That's not Harry Potter. Like, they took the only thing that's kind of sort of like Harry Potter is if they took all the teachers and put them in white robes with hoods. That's kind of it. If Slytherin were all white. And then that's probably, that wasn't in Harry Potter Quid Pro Quo. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So it was really funny. So the second time they learned the lesson, they're like, maybe somebody Black should talk about this. I'm like, I'm thinking. And even then they weren't ready. They were like, can we really say Token? I'm like, you can.
That's the character's name, so you can say it. Like,
I just thought that was I thought it was really funny that was the word that they were tripping up over. I'm like, Token? Really? That? Okay. All right. I'm just, because you just had the crew from Punisher on stage. All right.
Yeah.
So tell me, and I know we've already discussed this. DJ can't tell you where he works, but is your day-to-day a drawing comics, or is it drawing storyboards, or like, because there's so many things you can do as an artist, and I know every day you're not necessarily working on a comic unless you are. So tell us about like a day in the life.
So my day-to-day right now with what I do during the day when it's not my own personal stuff, what I pretty much do is I am responsible just for kind of like quality controlling comics to make sure that they look great before they go live on digital platforms. So whether that means like making sure that there are no awkward tangents happening on the corners of pages in particular books, or if that means like just making sure that like all the Black values are correct and everything just looks consistent all the way through. We just want the books that we work on during the day to look as good as possible. So just a lot of like quality control for stuff. There's not really like any drawing that's happening. It's just like making sure that stuff looks as good as possible. But then once I clock out, then we get the drawing.
That's when the drawing begins. Okay, and you don't necessarily write. You're not a writer right now. I'm not saying that you will never write, but that's not what you do. You get scripts from other people, right? And that's how you draw the comic.
Yeah, so mostly right now, my writer on Black Mage, his name is Daniel Barnes, who is like my life creative partner from now on. Like, we're probably gonna do things together as often as possible until like the day that we both leave this planet. But so yeah, when you find somebody that's like on the same wavelength as you and just gets your frame of reference, and you are working in a creative like atmosphere together, don't let those people go, because that's super hard to come by. So I really lucked out when me and Daniel were paired together for Black Mage. We've become really great friends because of that. But I'm also working on my own projects where I'm writing the stories and drawing them as well in my free time. But for the most part, I've been working with writers, and fortunately, most of the writers I've worked with, I'm also friends with. So that also helps too. So we already kind of have a pre-existing relationship going into various projects. So there's a level of comfort there. So we know that we can just like talk to each other. We're friends. We talk on Twitter, we exchange phone numbers, and wherever we have ideas that we want to present to one another, we just text each other and just talk them through. So that's awesome. Pretty much, yeah. Having that direct connection with someone that you're working with, because that doesn't always happen in comics. A lot of times two people are just paired together that don't really communicate. They communicate via their editor. They don't talk to each other like directly. So having a relationship with another creative, but it being like a friendship, is something that I think is rare, and I'm super grateful to have.
No, that is awesome. Now you have an amazing TikTok. I have more fun. I honestly, whenever I want to up my numbers, I just duet your TikToks because you're hilarious. But there was one thing that you brought up, I was about a week ago, and I was like, where did this come from? And then it sent me down a rabbit hole of some crazy. So this term Amerime.
Yes.
Somebody came in your comments and said that American anime is Amerime. And I was like, I don't understand. Apparently you didn't either. What was your response to this person?
Okay, so I didn't say anything to that person directly. I talked to some friends. I was like, this isn't a thing. No one says this. So basically how the conversation happened, there's someone that I follow on TikTok. His name is The Conscious Lee, and he is this Black educator who talks about like anti-racism, like, and definitely has conversations about homophobia, transphobia, like all of the, and he basically like calling out bigoted crap, and you know, and using his educational background to kind of like teach and educate people. And he teaches, I believe, like middle school or high school as well. And he was like, I'm having a debate in my class on if the Boondocks is anime. And both the kids and both of the students in their arguments about why it is or why it isn't, both kind of ended up at the same place. But the thing that I didn't like about either of their conversations is that they were like, well, if you're a real anime fan, you would know that that's not real anime. And I was like, let's get rid of this quote unquote real anime fan thing, because it sounds really gatekeepery to me, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So just because somebody has watched Demon Slayer, like an episode of Demon Slayer, and they say, oh, I like this thing, like they're a fan of it. They're like, oh, I enjoy this. I really like the show. And if that's the only anime they've ever seen, that's fine. That still makes them a fan. Like, that's just their entry point. At some point, you have never seen any of this stuff. So whether your entry point was Dragon Ball Z or Sailor Moon or Pokemon or whatever, like that's just your entry point. And to kind of be like, oh, well, you're not a real fan because like you haven't watched every episode of Dragon Ball Z and you can't name every instance where Goku died in the show. Like I hate that. So my rebuttal to that was, I said that both of the arguments were correct, because one conversation was talking about culture, and the other one was talking about art style. And both of those things are true, and they can go hand in hand, and they're not necessarily always hand in hand, because there are some anime that doesn't take place that's not rooted in like Japanese culture per se, and then there's anime that is. So both of them, both those answers were correct. But in the case of something like, this is my personal opinion, in a case of a show like Boondocks or Avatar: The Last Airbender, Voltron Legendary Defender, like stuff like that, that's like obviously very anime influence. What I said, which I think is a fair medium, is saying that these are, I guess not so much in the case of Voltron, but for the case of like Boondocks and Avatar, that these are just like anime influenced animated series. Like whether you want to call,
and it's not,
whether you call it anime or not,
right? And it's also, a lot of people don't know, because I've had arguments with people about this too. The original Transformer animation that was here back in like the 80s or whatever was drawn by some of the same artists that did do anime. So you can't, and yes, somebody in the chat, JD Hayes, said Seis Manos. I was gonna say Seis Manos.
Seis Manos as well.
Onyx, I was gonna say the Crunchyroll Onyx Equinox. And I don't know who's watched Onyx Equinox, but I love that. Even Dragon Prince on Netflix. Like a lot of people are like, well, it's not really anime. And I'm like, you know what? Sell that to a 12-year-old. Like they don't care.
A 12-year-old is not gonna care. Like it's anime. Like it's fine. I mean, and people get so hung up on like, well, it's not anime because it's not made in Japan, but like not all anime also is made in Japan. Like a lot of that stuff honestly, a lot of that stuff is outsourced to studios in Korea. And in China as well. So let's be honest about it here. But
and
so where I kind of,
and Korean manhwa is also really, really good too. And it's listen, if you want to get down to it, American cartoons kill the parents, anime kills the kids. That's the difference.
You're not wrong about that at all. You're not wrong about that at all. And where I kind of land on those conversations is like, and I think somebody also said it in the chat, like it's all animation. Like anime is just the shortened term for animation in Japan. Like just like how manga is just the Japanese word for comics, right? So in Japan, I don't think they're saying like I don't want to assume, of course, because I'm not Japanese nor do I live in Japan, that if they picked up like a Superman comic, like maybe in their bookstores they might have a different section for Western comics, but this word is still manga over there. Like so even for me with my work, I don't claim to be like a manga artist, and I don't, and even if I get into animation, if I ever knocking on, so I got some wood somewhere in this house someday to where I get to make Black Mage into an animated series, like I wouldn't even say that Black Mage is an anime. It's anime influence is what I would say, but like I wouldn't say that it's like it is anime if we're going to be serious about it. But like if you call Boondocks anime, that's fine. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter is what it all comes down to. Like it's a really dope show that's influenced by anime.
Right. And it's kind of like when people have the sub dub conversation. I'm like, did you watch it? Did you watch it?
It is 2021. The sub versus dub argument has been something that has followed me my entire life, having watched anime since 1992. Like, who cares? You still watch the show. It's still Dragon Ball Z. Like, who cares?
And listen, and here's the thing. The only time that a dub bothers me is when the voice actor is trash.
Yeah, if the voice actor is trash, then that's it.
Right, not the fact that it's actually a dubbed. It's like, and there's some that are really good at both. I have for Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. I have also, another show I'm always yelling about is Blood Black Gay Battlefront. Moribito. A lot of these animes that I have watched, I have listened to both sub and dub, and the voice acting cast are top notch.
Yeah.
Across the board. But you can go back to some of those early 90s ones when they were just putting them on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And it's like, did the producer do this? Whose voice is this? You know what I mean?
Okay. I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here really quickly. So, okay, look, like I'm a child of the 90s. Like I grew up watching anime like in the 90s. I was watching the stuff on Toonami. I was watching the stuff on WB Saturday mornings, like when Pokemon was on there every Saturday morning, Yu-Gi-Oh, that whole time block, fighting Foodons, all that stuff as a kid. Like if you go back and watch that stuff now, those dubs are objectively bad because they are just getting anybody that's in the studio. They're like, hey, can you come voice this character? Probably. They're like, anybody that's here, get in the booth, read the lines. Just get in the booth and read the lines. So to a degree, I get where that stigma comes from. But again, it's very gatekeepery to me. So I'm not a big fan of that at all. But like today, there are so many super talented voice actors that are huge fans of anime and manga. I will use Christina V as an example. Mm-hmm. Christina V grew up watching Sailor Moon and loves that series, and she got to voice Sailor Mars in the new dub. What a full circle moment for somebody who has been a fan of something to be able to voice the character that they love from a series that they love. Of course, those people are going to put their all into those performances and do their best. I mean, and once it's out there for the world to watch and listen to, whatever, their opinion is fine. But like, just tell somebody that they are not experiencing anime because they watched it in English. Shut up. Like, go outside, touch some grass, do something. Wear a mask. Some grass. Wear a mask, but like, go outside, touch some grass, drink some water, do something. Like, why are we arguing with people in 2021 where we're still in a personal pan pizza if they're watch Demon Slayer in English or Japanese? Just watch the show or read the manga. Who cares? Like,
you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Oh my God, Black Crystal in the chat is dying. That bouncer says, as an artist, sometimes I can't look at the screen, so I appreciate the dub. And also, Rubat said it's an accessibility issue sometimes.
I was going to get to that next as well.
You know, so but I can talk to you about anime all night, and I could definitely talk about all these things. Now, real quick, tell me, because this version of Dream Daddy, I don't know. So tell me, before I let you go, what this Dream Daddy is about, because these daddies are parents.
Okay, so Dream Daddy is the Dream Daddy comics were based on the Dream Daddy dating simulator game that came out a couple years ago that was produced in part by the Game Grumps. So that game was very popular like in 2018, early 2019, and Oni got the license to do comics of them, so they adapted the game into comics to where there are different stories about the various different dads in the game. All of them are dateable. You can pick whatever dad you want to pick, and whichever one you're in love with, you can play through their route. What was cool about mine was that the story that we got to do, it was written by my buddy Josh Trujillo, I love him to pieces. He is a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. So he wrote a story called Dungeons and Daddies, which is the story that I got to work on. So it's about all of the Dream Daddy characters that you could choose to romance in the game, playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons together. So I got to design
it's like a role play of a role play.
Yeah, it's a role play of a role playing game. So I got to design some like revealing outfits for some of the dads, which was great. And I thought I was going to get pushback, but they were like, no, these are great. You can actually go further. You can actually make it gayer. And I was like, say less. You don't have to tell me twice.
When have you ever gotten a note that was make it gayer?
That was the best note that I've ever received working on a comic. Like, no, you can like gay it up. You can like put flowers in his beard. And I was like, great. Flowers in the beard. Done.
So Dream Daddies, Dungeons and Dragons, but make it gay.
Yeah, and it was great. Like, it was a fun, like, little 22-page comic that I got to draw and work with one of my really good friends, and it was great. There are 5 or 6 stories in the collected Dream Daddy book that we showed the image of. The cover was done by Chris Anka, who, if you're not following Chris Anka, you should be, because that boy can draw.
There we go.
That boy
the art is amazing.
Draw some menses. He could draw some fine ass menses. It's really good. It's real good. He's an incredible artist. So to have been on a project with him, I was like, honestly, I love comics. Being able to work with people that I really look up to and admire is like the best part of working in comics, is being able to spend time with people that you have a lot of respect and admiration for, and get to see them do their thing and you do their thing, and it comes together and makes something really cool. So I had a really good time working on Dream Daddy.
Listen, I am gonna get this book because now I got to see the role play.
There are awesome. really good stories in there. Really, really good stories. A lot of the artists that are in that book are my personal friends. Like, it's cool to see all of us in a book together. Like, it was really rad. I love working on that book.
It is. And for everybody who joined us tonight for this first hour, I just want to thank you. And also remember, in the chat, we've been giving you DJ's Twitter as well as a link to where you can buy all of these amazing books. Yes, everybody in the chat is done. When you said make it gayer, there. Can we just robots?
You don't have to tell me twice. I have a RuPaul's Drag Race background. You don't have to tell me to make it gayer.
Torque Mama said, release the glitter hounds.
I would love to. I would love to.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me, DJ. You know I love talking to you. You know I love hanging out with you. I've been trying to do this forever. Thank you for being patient while we made it happen.
Anytime.
And please stick around. Don't go anywhere, because in the next hour, which will be coming up very shortly, I will be talking to award-winning author N.K. Jemisin. Don't go anywhere.
amazing!
I keep getting blind in that. Anyone else?
that hard to return.
Kill confirmed. Training time's over. Let's see what you can do.
Yep. I have been funding everything that I'm doing, the podcast, the Blerd Girl Live, everything out of my own pocket, and I need some help. So if you are a fan of what I'm writing, building, producing, I could really use your support. There's several tiers, several things for you to choose from, and I'm going to be using the Patreon as a vehicle to let people see a little peek behind the scenes also. So if you are interested in doing some of what I do, I'll be sort of teaching classes, and there'll be certain levels where you will be able to take part in a monthly coaching series that I'm going to be doing through Patreon as well. So I hope to see everyone on Patreon, and I really, really can't thank you enough for all the support you've given me so far, and I can't wait to show you what I've been working on. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Blerd Girl Live. I'm Karen Mahorn, aka the Blerd Girl, and welcome to the second hour, to the Get Down segment. So my guest tonight is the award-winning author, N.K. Jemisin. So for the 5 of you in the chat who don't know who that is, I'm going to read her bio to you. N.K. Jemisin is a New York Times bestselling author of speculative fiction, short stories, and novels. She lives right here in Brooklyn, and she became the first author in history to win 3 consecutive Best Novel Hugo Awards, all for her Broken Earth trilogy. She's also won a Nebula Award she's won all the awards, but she's won a Nebula Award. She's the recipient of the MacArthur Genius Fellowship. In addition to writing, she's a counseling psychologist, an educator, a political feminist, an anti-racist blogger, and I dare you to come for her on Twitter because we will handle you ourselves. She's facilitated all kinds of workshops, and she's an amazing, not just writer and author, but her perspective is so amazing. I'm really thrilled to welcome to the show, N.K. Jemisin. Welcome, N.K.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. So everybody is in the chat is super excited. They're like, finally.
Oh, no. Okay.
So first question is the one I ask everybody. What are you geeking out over to stay sane?
So many things, but like right now I'm mad that apparently my magic 8-ball is busted.
Oh no.
I didn't know that could happen, but it's full of like foam and I can't actually see the answers. So I'm going to have to get a new magic 8-ball. I don't know if that means like all of my luck is busted or what. But I was just saying that this is my new fun thing. Let's see if I can get it in front of the camera.
Land of the Lustrous. Okay.
Yeah. Hoseki no Kuni is the Japanese name of it. If I'm not mangling that pronunciation, which I probably am. And there's actually an anime for it, which is on Amazon Prime, I think, and covers really just like a little bit of the whole series. And it was so intriguing. And that first season has not been followed in the last 3 years by another season. It was so intriguing that I actually decided to go ahead and get the manga and finish the whole thing. I am not done. I'm on the 9th book. and things have gotten very existential and deep and difficult to discuss. But of course, people referred me to it because it's set in a world full of people made of gemstones, rock people. And
okay, I see why. I see why.
They were like, Nora likes rocks and rock people. Why don't we give her, a recommendation for a manga about rock people? And it's just as heart destroying in some ways as probably the Broken Earth series was for people who didn't write it. So I guess people who recommended it to me are having their revenge right now, because I'm reading this and I'm just like alternately horrified and fascinated and crying and laughing, and anyway.
Yeah,
But
all of that was all of my reactions to reading the Broken Earth series. So yeah, that's about right.
All right. Okay, well, karmic vengeance has happened.
So I gotta ask, I know I have seen you, well, I've seen you talk about it on Twitter and I've seen you on Twitch, so I know you're a bit of a gamer. What are some of the games, and I'm not saying gamer like you're esports, but like, you relax and play some games and stuff. What are some of your faves?
Oh, so many. I've mostly been doing a lot of old games lately, just kind of comfort gaming, like Skyrim. But
wait, I love how Skyrim is your comfort game.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't have to play Skyrim the way that the game wants you to play it, or kind of encourages you to play. I play Cheese Skyrim, and in Cheese Skyrim, you go around Skyrim, and you don't care about like fights or dragons or any of that other stuff. You hunt down wheels of cheese, and you collect wheels of cheese. And I have in one of my custom built houses, I have a cheese room for the blue cheese and a cheese room for the goat cheese, and I'm filling up my cheese room slowly, and that is my goal. You get cheese or die trying. That is my focus. So awesome. It can be very soothing. It can be
the chat is totally exploding right now. They're like, what? Thing? How do you do this?
I mean, you just ignore, like, when a dragon shows up, you run, you find the nearest house, you steal their cheese. That's what it is. Anyway, let's see. Other things I've played lately have been The Outer Wilds, Control. Let's see. Absolutely love that one.
Isn't Control interesting because you can pick up furniture and just throw it?
Yeah, you basically, like, it's wild. You're going through it as like throwing the entire. It's also sort of weird and surreal. I mean, I like the atmosphere of it. On top of that, it's kind of like the X-Files, except it's all real. Or I'm told that it's actually paying homage to SCP Foundation, which I'm not familiar with, but anyway.
Oh, that's a whole other show. Yeah, there's a whole. I bet you once we introduce you to SCP Foundation, you'll have a whole book on it, because it is fascinating.
Well, I mean, the game Control has me interested, so I'm gonna go check it out. So those are some of what I've been doing lately.
Awesome. It's really funny because I feel like so many more people are watching anime, and you see all these things about gaming being a lifestyle now since the Personal Pan Pizza panorama has started.
What is the Personal Pan Pizza panorama?
That's the pandemic. We don't like calling her by her real name here on the show. So if you like to call her Panda Express, you can call her that too.
Okay.
We don't call her by her real name. We call it's like the islands. We ain't calling you by your real name. We just calling you by what you remind us of.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting how so many people are sort of geekdom is mainstream now, which is weird. Not that it's bad. It's just now there's all these people trying to lay claim to it. So I think you might have heard in the first hour, we're talking a little bit about Amerime and this concept of, if it's not made in Japan, it's Amerime, it's American anime, like Boondocks or Avatar: The Last Airbender. What do you think about that craziness?
I mean, I agree with what GJ had to say, which was, so much anime isn't even made in Japan anymore. And I think he did a great job of breaking down that it's like, the visual aesthetic, the style and all of that. And then there's the culture aspect of it. to me, it's also people want to separate things in this nice, neat way, and there isn't a nice, neat way to separate them. It's a continuum. What you've got in some cases is, stuff made in Japan that's paying homage to stuff in the United States. Oh my gosh, same people who made Cowboy Bebop did what? Oh, Jin Mugen and what is it called? Why am I drawing a blank on this?
It's okay. People in the chat are going to help us out.
I'm tired. This is what's happening.
You're talking about the show Samurai Champloo, or you're talking about
Samurai Champloo?
Actual... Okay, I thought you were talking about I thought you were talking about the animation house, because I couldn't remember the animation house either.
Well, no, the animation house I think is Madhouse, but no, but I was thinking about the fact that we've got so much cross pollination going on. It doesn't make sense to try and separate these things. With Samurai Champloo, we've got a Japanese thing made primarily in Korea by an animation house that is drawing homage from a Japanese rapper who's been inspired by American rappers, and it's just past a certain point, it's all like this incestuous mess. So it doesn't make sense to separate these things. I agree 100% that the attempt to separate it and put names and labels on it is a gatekeeping thing.
It is. It is all gatekeeping, and it's one of those things where it's so strange because, like I said, I remember saying years and years ago, I was the only one who knew anything about anime, amongst my friends. They thought I was just so strange. And now it's no, sub versus dub. And no, that's not a real, mangaka. That's not a real. And it's wow.
Yeah. DJ said he's a 90s kid. I'm an 80s kid. I've been hearing this since Robotech. So I'm tired of it. As a little tiny child, I watched Ambassador Magma. I'm older than all of you combined. No, I'm not. But, but we've been hearing this nonsense for all that time. I remember when I was little, not little, but a younger person. We'll go with that. Probably a teenager. They imported Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, and they mangled it. I mean, it was just the worst adaptation you could imagine. Didn't make any sense. Whatever. Later on, I saw the real thing that was great, but they imported it, and it was such a bastardized rehash or bastardized hash of what the original was. It wasn't the original anymore. It was a completely different product. Was that a Merime? I don't like this word.
No, that was just bad.
I don't want a Merime to happen. I'm not ready to let that happen.
No.
Anyway,
and
so
we're in agreement, and everybody in the chat is in agreement. So you got a bunch of fans in here who are like, yes.
All right. Yeah.
What you just said.
Subs versus dubs has been happening for 40 years. I'm tired of it. Anyway.
So for those of you who are just joining us, I am Karama, aka the Blur Girl, and I'm talking to the amazing award-winning author NK Jemisin. We actually haven't been talking about her books. We've been talking about anime. We've been talking about manga. We've been talking about gaming because I can. And all
of that stuff is an influence. So
it is. And somebody on Twitter had asked, it's okay, get comfortable. Somebody on Twitter was asking what was going on behind me. This is my emotional support squishy. He's joining us this evening because I had a rough day. I don't know. He might be on every show now, but this is what's happening. Now, for those of you who are new, I'd like to explain a little bit about just a little bit of backstory for some people who might be new, how important the Hugo Awards are and how amazing it is that the Broken Earth series. I actually would like to show people what the Broken Earth trilogy looks like. We have the covers here. Yes. So this is the 3 books, the 5th season, The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. And it's an amazing series, but I need everybody to understand that what Nora was able to do was win basically the highest award in science fiction 3 years in a row. Not the first Black woman, not the first woman, the first human being to do this. And that is no easy feat. Neither is writing a trilogy. So congratulations. I know you've been won it, but I always wanted to, say congratulations for that. And that is, I believe I heard that was being adapted. And then I heard this week that the Inheritance trilogy, we have covers here, I would like to show everybody, the 100,000 Kingdoms, Broken Kingdoms, and Kingdom of Gods. And I believe somebody in the chat just said that they were reading this book in their book club. So good. Excellent reading. This was announced, I think, on Friday that Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's company have optioned this.
Westbrook.
So yes, Westbrook. So I know you've got a lot of things that are being adapted right now. Are there any that you can tell us? Like, has anything started shooting? Has anything started script writing? Are you going to be writing any scripts, or do we not have any of that information yet?
I can tell you nothing has started shooting. I am not writing any scripts. That's probably because I've never written a script in my life other than comic book scripts, and they know that. Plus, also, studios don't necessarily want authors doing adaptations. We can get precious about our stuff, and we don't want to cut out certain things or certain characters that sometimes it's actually a better thing to cut. So no, I'm not doing any of that. What else can I safely tell you? Nothing.
You're like, absolutely nothing.
I will say that every single novel that I have written has been optioned for TV or film at this point. I cannot discuss. Only 2 of them have announced, and that's largely because the optioning happens at the production company level. Then they farm it out to a distributor, basically. TNT in the case of the 5th season and all that. Searchlight in the case of the Inheritance trilogy. So the production company option level has happened for every single book I've written, and a couple of short stories. There's also a theatrical adaptation of I am drawing a blank on my own stories' names. Oh, I'm tired.
Okay.
I am super tired. The Effluent Engine. Oh, good grief.
Oh, really?
There's a theatrical adaptation of the Effluent Engine that's coming soon. I just realized I look like I'm wearing underwear in front of you. No. It's a tank top, guys.
We know you're not. It's fine. You're so funny.
I feel all modest now.
So all of these people, first of all, bye Felicity's dad. Thank you. My day did get much better. I do have heat. Don't ask. The JD Hayes, yes, the design covers are dope. Scarrett says the Broken Earth trilogy is the best trilogy I've ever read. Beats out Lord of the Rings, all of it. Yes, it does. Still need to read Thousand Kingdoms. Shout out to the Sci-Fi Sister Book Club. You're so cute. Just Genu's art. Sarati says, I have the entire Broken Earth series, and my publisher was able to get the narrator from NK's audiobooks, Robin Miles, to narrate some of my books, and I'm over the moon. Well, first of all, Sarati, congratulations for Sarati, who is in the chat. Sarati, congratulations. For being published first. That's a feat. And also congratulations for getting your books made into audiobooks. Yes, can we trust robots? That is absolutely a flex. I am excited. I'm as excited as all of you are. I'm very curious. And I just gotta let you know, your speech from the Hugo Awards after the sad puppies, angry puppies, and all of that mess, I still keep your speech. I have that bookmarked on YouTube because every now and then a girl needs to just hype herself up, and that is a really good speech. What I wanted to say is, in that speech, you said science fiction and fantasy reflect our world. And I'm very curious as to what are some of the things that you have written that now in the lens of 2021, you go, well, damn.
I mean, honestly,
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's pretty much everything that I've ever written I never wrote it with the intention of trying to predict anything. Obviously it's not set on our world or any of that stuff. But with the Broken Earth books, I'm asking the question of like, does the society that is rooted in bigotry, and that seems hell bent on kind of progressively doing things that are harmful to itself, does that society actually deserve to live? And then Trump got elected. So there's that. And with The City We Became, I definitely did not intend this, but a lot of people found some congruity between a certain process that is happening to New York City in the book. I don't want to spoil anything. And the pandemonium. So, and I had not intended that parallel, obviously. I was really kind of talking about gentrification, which moves sort of like a slow moving pan pizza. This is going to drive me crazy. But yeah, so that was not an intentional thing, but the parallel was there because I was talking about one kind of plague and we ended up dealing with another, and really both at the same time. So
and it's so funny because I personally think science fiction was supposed to do that because it's about a future. So it's supposed to be making us think about, okay, if you keep doing this is where we're going to end up. Oh, well, no, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that because I think I feel that way when I tell people I'm actually wary of telling people to read Parable of the Sower right now because I think it might terrify them.
Yeah, it's traumatizing. Yeah,
it's too close to our current reality. But what do you think?
Science fiction actually is more rooted in whatever is happening at the time that it's written. It reflects its present, not really its future. It reflects whatever the author is worried about in the present. So, if you go back and you read a lot of science fiction in the late 1950s and 60s, you see that it's full of, men's fears that women will take over and turn them into slaves, or black people will take over and turn them into slaves, or whatever. And so, hey, the women's movement, what do you call it? Sexual revolution and the civil rights movement were happening at that time, and these white male authors were worried about that. So this is why we start to see, people like Heinlein and so forth writing stories that went there. And Butler in with Parable of the Sower, for example, was watching. She lived in California at the time. I want to say L.A. And she had seen all of the stuff that led up to the L.A. riots, basically at that point. So a lot of the same stuff that she was proposing might happen in the future was already kind of happening. It was just happening, sort of in specific communities and things like that. So, whatever you see in science fiction, go in and look at history and find out what's actually happening at that time. And that'll tell you what the author was actually engaging with. The problem is that a lot of the stuff that happens in our society is either cyclical or never gets resolved. So
it repeats.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I'm very curious, also about your process because you have several trilogies out. I know you also have a book of short stories and essays of varying lengths. But when you're thinking of, I am going to sit down and write this epic tome, are you thinking in threes? And if so, how do you sort of architect that?
It's not a conscious thing. Like with the 100,000 Kingdoms, anybody that's read that novel knows that it ends pretty definitively. There's no cliffhanger. It could stand alone, and that was because as a new author trying to break in, I thought that I had a better chance breaking in with a standalone novel. But the world was alive and kind of churning in my head, and even with the fairly definitive ending of the 100,000 Kingdoms, there's an unresolved major plot element that I wanted to do more with. And when the book sold, the publisher, well, what is now my publisher, actually made me an offer to expand it into a trilogy, and they would give me more money. And I was like, well, I guess I'll be writing a trilogy because money. I had student loans, I had rent. So that was not really that difficult, especially considering I kind of wanted to write it anyway. I was already working on book 2 when book 1 sold, in kind of like aspirational hopes that they would let me do a trilogy. And that is what any author should do. You shouldn't just write one book. As soon as you finish one book, you write the next book. And, then you keep trying to get that last book published. So I don't really structure things with the Broken Earth series. That was the first time that I ever decided to write a whole story spread across 3 books. My previous series were standalone stories in the same universe, basically. Sometimes all the time with different characters and that kind of thing. But basically at that point, I decided I had tried that. I had already done standalone stories. Let's try something new this time. And I'm always I have like a short attention span. I get bored really easily. And I wanted to try something challenging. And so I decided to create a story that would actually arc across the whole three books. And structurally, it's not that different. You write a story that has three major arcs, or 3 major, I don't know what to call it, stop signs along the way to the end destination. And you just make sure that those stop signs are actually interesting.
Now, I'm curious, before we hop off of fantasy, because there's a lot of people in the chat who are also asking about Sojourner. We'll get there, guys. I just want to answer this first. What is one thing that you wish somebody would have told you about the work of being a published author before you became a published author? Because everybody has these delusions of grandeur, I think, about what a writer's life is.
My life has only recently become the delusional version of what a writer's life should be. I am now making enough money that I could quit my day job, all that other stuff. That none of that was happening for like the first 10 years of my career. But the one thing that I think I wish someone had told me was that it really is just the beginning. Once you are a published author, then you got to stay published. Then you got to figure out how to make sure that you don't get caught in the midlist death spiral. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not.
It's like the sophomore movie.
Yeah, well, it's also, it's a career killing process that happens due to the way that retail works, where, basically, if your book sold X copies, and then this was really kind of more an issue when I started out in the early 2000s, but if your book sold X number of copies, the retailer like Barnes and Noble or something would only buy half of X the next time out, just because they were being conservative, in spaces at a premium. But what that means is that if you weren't a blockbuster bestseller out of the gate, then slowly you had these diminishing returns, even if your book was popular. And so it could kill your career. It did kill a lot of authors' careers. And so you have to watch out for the midlist death spiral. You got to watch out for, just there's so many things. Once you become a pro, you have a new career. And that new career has its own horrible pitfalls and benefits. I'm not going to pretend that it's all terrible, but it's, for a while, I had 2 careers where I had to be concerned about 2 careers worth of drama, and risk and reward.
That is fascinating. I actually didn't know that was. I guess in my mind, I would think that you could get beyond that because so many books are digital now. But it's still, but there's still New York Times bestseller lists and things like that. Also, New York Times bestseller list. Now that I've seen like all these books and all this stuff has come out about like Trump books being bought by large groups of people, and then they purposely, because I didn't realize that the New York Times bestseller list had to do with volume and not with how good the book was. I missed that part.
It has to do with velocity. So for example, the 100,000 Kingdoms has sold probably over the course of its life as many copies as the Stone Sky, which was my first book to get onto the New York Times bestseller list. The 100,000 Kingdoms has sold just as many copies. It's just sold them over a long time. My primary marketing when I first started out in my career was word of mouth. People would hear about me, they'd tell their friends, and that is how my sales have been steady but low for a very long time with that book. With The Stone Sky, because it was a contiguous series, because it was all one story, each book building on the other, anticipation was pretty high. By the time the third book came out, it sold all of that in like weeks. So that's what it's about. It's about the speed of sales, the speed and the volume. It doesn't matter how many copies you sell, it matters how quickly you sell them.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
no,
also you have to understand this like completely Byzantine, elaborate, almost mysterious, because for a long time, nobody really still knows how the New York Times bestseller list works. But there are people who have figured out enough to try and game it, and then they mess with the algorithms or whatever. I don't know how that works. Anyway.
Yeah. It's because nobody has to report how anything works anymore. We don't know who the people are that are making this decision, Yeah. It's like the Hollywood Foreign Press. Who are they really? So
this is not tea, but I wish it was.
I'm still gonna say it, y'all. Like I said in the first hour, Regina was robbed. Anyway, the
truth.
So let's talk comics for a little bit. You dipped your toe in the comic book waters by with Far Sector, and Far Sector. Your artist Jamal Campbell also is amazing. I was a fan of his Immortal Nadia Green even before all this started. So I had spoken to you, I think, first when the comic was just about to come out, and you were like, yeah, I don't know if I'm sticking around. Let's see how this first few issues goes. And now we're like a couple of volumes deep. And so are you sticking around in the comic book world? And I'm not even saying making you beholden to DC, just the concept of creating sequential art. A, how do you like it? B, what was the process, like for you going from these tomes to much less words?
Well, yeah. Far Sector is almost done. We are about to come out with issue 11, and I think 12 is the last one. I am sad that it's ending. I really would have loved to continue with the Far Sector world, but that is the breaks with how stuff works with the big two. I am interested, and at least Joe is gonna live on, regardless of whether I'm writing Far Sector or not, and has moved into.
So she's canon now. So
yeah,
she's
what is
canon.
the name of the Future State?
Okay, yeah, no, because
yeah.
I was really worried about her sticking around in Future State. And I'm glad to hear it. What about the transition process of writing from all these words to so many fewer words per page?
It's not that different from writing a short story. So it felt to me like writing a segmented short story or a serial, which I had actually done before, but in fanfic form. Anyway, we won't discuss that in great detail, but nope. My fanfics are just for me and friends. I don't share my sued, none of that. But yes, I have written.
Can you tell us the subject?
No, I'm not telling y'all nothing. No, my fanfic is my playground. It is, and what keeps it my playground is that it is private. But all that said, so it was not that different from writing a serial or a sequential story, just a short one. And I write short stories all the time. I don't do a lot of them, but I do know how to do them. So it was really not that different in terms of structure. The biggest sort of complexity that I kind of had to deal with. And it was really something not specific to comics, was the fact that I had never really collaborated with another person who was an artist of equal, heck, better caliber. Jamal Campbell is amazing.
Incredible.
Just like, it got to the point where, like, initially when I was sort of teaching myself how to do this, I was reading all these books on, how to give direction to an artist. And I go back and I look at the first scripts and I put in like all these elaborate author notes. And like by issue 5, I was like, no, I don't need all this. And so like now I'm just like, here's 3 pages. I want a fight scene. By the end of it, she's going to make this snarky comment. Go for what you know. And I don't describe it or anything like that. Maybe I put in like 1 or 2 beats of that I would like him to illustrate. But beyond that, I let him have fun. And he does so well with it. He has so much fun and it's so beautiful. So that was really the only thing. I am not a super visual person also. So I actually had difficulty describing. That's hard to say. Okay, I'm explaining this badly. When I imagine a scene in my head, what I've begun to realize is that I kind of imagine things in almost an impressionistic way. Like I imagine the scents, I imagine the colors, I imagine like the thematic beats or the emotional beats that I want to hit. I'm not visualizing scenes. I'm not visualizing like I throw in enough description that hopefully the reader's mind will take over and paint the rest. So it's more like a color by numbers. Okay, that's disturbing, but yeah, so I put in like the outline and some dots and like some color suggestions, and I want y'all to kind of go with that. And it's hard to describe things in great detail when that's how I visualize or don't visualize. So fortunately, Jamal Campbell is amazing. So
he is. Mm-hmm. And some of the art that I saw that he drew, even before it came out, was stunning. Like if she throw a punch or if it's a fight scene, you're seeing, and he would change. The thing I love about Jamal is he changes the size of the boxes. I love when an artist is so in control of their art that they're not like doing a standard grid. They're like, nope, this is going to move with my motion. And he's fantastic. By the way, the chat has blown up and they're all like, oh, we going to find this fanfic. So unless it's not online, y'all. It's not online.
I have guarded this. Like, I mean, you'll find some very, very old.
It's not over on LiveJournal if we dig it up.
Also, I got rid of my LiveJournal 10 years ago. Anyway, no, I will say if you really dig deep enough, you will probably find my terrible old Dragon Ball fanfic from 20-something years ago, which I needed to get through grad school. So I will tell you now that is more than half my life ago. It is not good writing. I am sorry. Anyway. But
we're here for the fact that you wrote. We are here for the fact that you wrote Dragon Ball fanfic at all.
I'm a little embarrassed about it, but I did. So you cope in whatever way you can. But anyway,
whatever gets you through.
We were watching, like fan translations. It was terrible. Anyway, but yeah.
Now I would love to talk to you also about what brings you back to the page. And so many of these things, especially during Black History Month and Women's History Month, it's all about like, tell us what it's like to struggle being a Black woman. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what brings you back to the page, what makes you happy, even when you're like, and I don't even mean being stressed out by what other people are saying. I mean, when you're like, oh, I don't know if I have another page in me. Are you the kind of writer who every day I have to write my 5,000 words? Or are you more of, I'm just going to go with what I feel this morning?
I'm very much a let's go with what I feel. Now, when I am in sort of hardcore production mode, I do write every day. My preference is to write 1,500 words a day. For the last couple of years since, coronavirus, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that word.
No, it's fine.
and all of that, I've found myself struggling, and the struggle is real. When you are staying at home and as an author or as an artist, you need to go out and experience the world in order to write about it. Especially right now when I'm writing the Great Cities trilogy, I need to be able to go around New York City. Well, so much stuff is shut down. And to get to it, I would have to take the subway. And, the last time I rode the subway, there was a person on there who was visibly sick. And everybody in the car had kind of moved to the other end of the car as this person was coughing out their lungs. The poor person was just visibly sick and was riding the subway to get to wherever they needed to go. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But what it means is that I have lately for the last few months, I've confined myself to my neighborhood for the most part. Anything I can get to on foot or by bike. And, occasionally I'll take a Lyft. And the Lyft drivers have been generally good about wearing masks and opening the window and things like that. But I'm not getting the fuel that I need to kind of power my writing. And the fuel that I need is the world, is life, is interaction with other people, going to new places, exploring things, trying new things. So it's been difficult. I am still writing, but if I manage 500 words in a day, I'm good. And this is just how you have to be. I am very much a believer in Octavia Butler's, idea that what is more effective is habit than inspiration. You should not wait for inspiration to write because inspiration isn't reliable. If you have, a bad period in your life, your heart kind of tells you to stop and hunker down. Habit just kind of makes your hands and your brain kind of churn out stuff. But the truth of the matter is that when you're dealing with a long-term, slow-moving trauma like what we've been living for the last few years, it's harder to make the machine turn the way that it usually does.
Yeah, I can completely relate, not to the writing part, but to the part about never leaving the house again. Because I have been on one or two of those subways, and all it takes is once. And I remember when people thought it was weird to wear masks, they weren't mandated, and I was wearing them, and people were coughing all over the place. And it's just one of those. And even now, when you hear about people having parties and stuff, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about it. It's like, why are you having a party? How?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm a giant introvert, but all of us introverts have suddenly discovered that we actually are a lot more social than we thought we were. So that's some stuff.
I'm incredibly social now that I can do it in a box.
Well, all right, okay.
But yeah, people in the chat are also agreeing. Creative people need to be creative, and that's the other. Actually, one of the reasons why I really also like doing the live show, because a lot of people big each other up and support each other over here, and you got a lot of fans in here who love all of your work and love a lot of the things that you're doing. If you could pick another comic book character or a manga character to write about, what is one that you would love to tell a story about?
Nothing already created. I like creating my own characters and my own world. So, I mean, folks have offered me the chance to write some well-known characters, and I've turned it down because, honestly, the only reason that I really kind of got as into Far Sector as I could was because I had carte blanche to kind of create my own world and my own character in whatever way I wanted. And while I do enjoy writing fanfic, I much prefer doing original fiction and original characters. So you asked earlier if I might continue in the comic book world. Sure. I will probably look into doing something indie next. Now, of course, first I still have to deliver books 2 and 3 of the Great Cities, so that's my first priority right now. So it'll be a while, but I'm definitely interested in continuing with comics. It's been a fun experience.
Awesome. Now, if you could have the powers or the energy or live in the world of one of the characters that you've already created, which one would you pick?
Ooh.
And why?
Ooh. I think I would actually have to go with Marth of the Sea from the Far Sector comic. Yeah, I mean, he's a man and all that, not, exactly like me. But
no
I
judgments here. No judgments here.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that Marth solves problems by just like kind of, oh God, let me turn this off. I thought I had. Anyway. My apologies. Yeah, I love the fact that basically Marth solves problems by like getting receipts and dropping tea, and like he is just he's petty as hell, but he's also strategically so. Yeah, I mean, and it's like he has all of the power. Like, I am a nice person in general. I mean, everybody can be an asshole. Is it okay for me to say that?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So everybody can be an asshole. Everybody has an asshole streak. And of course, when certain people rub me the wrong way, mine jumps right out. But, for the most part, I am like a generally super nice person. And the idea of just being a giant bitch, because that is what Marth is.
Yes,
is probably a fantasy for me. Like if I could summon the power to be just straight up, scheming, I would love that. Also he can dress. I literally just told Jamal when we were kind of coming up with the character designs, that this is a man who wears dreadlocks and he never has a hair or a lock out of place. He is always 100% like GQ. Like there's no point in time where he is not beautiful. You're never going to see him with bedhead, even when he's in bed. Whatever. Even if he's like in bed, he will be artfully with his locks like stylishly flopped all over the place. And he ran with that. And like every time I see one of Marth's outfits, I'm like, oh, I want to dress like that, but I can't.
But also if Marth, I agree with you. If petty was a superpower, Marth.
I mean, I can't spoil things. All right. Well.
Okay. Well,
anyway,
you know what?
We will see more of Marth's powers in the next 2 issues.
I was going to ask you, and when are the next 2 issues coming out? Because I don't want to let you go without telling everybody. The next 2 issues, are they coming out not March but April? Are we going to see them May?
April is the last issue, from what I understand, is issue 12. So issue 11 is coming out very soon, and I don't remember the actual specific date.
No worry. We can tell everybody to definitely check out Far Sector on Comixology or your local comic book shop if you can. A couple people in the chat have already said that they have, which is amazing. And thank you. I just want to thank you for... Oh, yes. Go ahead.
One other thing. The compiled 12 issue, the compilation of the 12 issues is due to come out in October, from what I understand.
Okay, so the whole shebang.
All 12 issues of the run.
So we can pre-order that now. Get that chat.
I believe so.
We gotta get in there and pre-order so that people understand at the comic book shops when things open back up that they need to be carrying this book. This is not a request. I'm telling everybody in the chat that they need to pre-order this book, Far Sector, immediately. It comes out in October. I also am curious as to whether you're going to do, before I let you go, any other short story series. As you can see from you probably can't see the title of the show. Is How Long, we called it How Long Till Black Future Month. So in terms of short stories, are you going to be working on any more of those? Or is there another book that you're working on right now?
Right now, my priority is to get out books 2 and 3 of the I almost called it the Broken Cities. Oh no, of the Great Cities, and that's because those are due to my publisher. I have a contract I must fulfill, and I'm already late on book 2. Like I said, it's been rough and it's been difficult to write, and I'm not getting the New York fuel that I need. So I am hopefully soon going to be able to get fully vaccinated, and then maybe I can go forth again cautiously and still masked.
Do you need us to send you pictures of New York? Do you need us to like find images of the city and send them? We will help you.
The truth of the matter is, I've been looking at pictures. There's no substitute for experience. You know, for me, I have to go to a place, smell it, eat some food from there. You know, step around the dog mess, whatever. Like I don't feel it unless I do it. So I'll have to do that again. But yeah, I always write short stories. The catch with short stories is that because it kind of requires changing gears in my head, like I have to shift into low gear. I don't know if that's a good metaphor. I normally only write short stories in between novels, and I have been in novel for like the last year and a half. So I haven't written a short story in over a year. But you know, the short stories always come to me. The creativity never dies. I don't want to say like I don't believe in writer's block because you know, I've just described the fact that it's difficult to kind of push through stress and all of this other stuff that regular people feel. But creativity doesn't go away. It is very much, in my opinion, like thermodynamics. You know, energy is neither created nor destroyed. Creative energy never goes away. Even if you aren't able to write for years, it will come back. So I have faith in my own creativity, and I'm sure that I will get ramped back up to my usual production speed at some point soon.
And we believe that you will too. DY Princess in the chat says, we'll be patient. Just Jenu Stewart says she needs a holodeck. Yes, she does.
I mean, you know, let's get on that technology. That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
I'll have one too if you're buying. I mean, but yeah, we just want to thank you. And we're all big fans of Far Sector here and Jamal Campbell as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We know you're a very busy person, so I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. And everybody in the chat, I want to thank you for hanging out and sticking around for the second hour of the show. Please tell your friends about the Blerd Girl Live. Tell your friends about OSNYC. Also, follow. We've been putting NK Jemisin's Twitter handle in the chat. Follow her. Follow me, the Blerd Girl, all over social media. And please, like I said, y'all got me another monitor. I appreciate it. Support the Patreon so I can get a better camera and maybe some more squishies at patreon.com/theblerdgurl. That's patreon.com/theblerdgurl. Thank you all. Thank you for hanging out. And I want you to have an amazing week, a restful week, and I will see you next week.